We are setting up the live stream right now. All right, so we are all set. Looks like we're live. I am very excited to be talking with Jenora Ledbetter today of the Self Care Network. How are you today, Jenora?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Yeah, we've just launched your book, Centering Equity in Your Organization. So congratulations. It's very exciting that we have reached to this point and have the book out there. I know it's going to help a lot of organizations that are really looking to shift the way that they do things. I know it's going to help people have a way to invite conversations on a very important topic. So what inspired you to write this book in the first place? Like, where did the idea come from?
Yeah, so I'm going to take it back a little bit. What inspired me to do this was I originally started my career working in nonprofit organizations in corporate.
Mm,
And I spent about 14 years doing that. And one common theme that I saw that kept coming up was that when it came to interpersonal relationships within the organization when dealing with microaggressions or any type of discrimination or any type of racial biases, the organizations would not know how to handle that
mm,
effectively.
mhm,
And I come from a time where they would give a cultural competency training for clients and how to deal with when working with clients, but it was never a focus internally.
mm,
And so that really made me decide that I wanted to take all the experience I had working in these organizations as a director, regional director, executive director. I wanted to take all of that and open up my own consulting firm. And so that's what I ended up doing. And
mm,
so in opening up my consulting firm, really a lot of my work is helping organizations understand their culture and
mm,
understanding their people.
mm,
I'm very aware that we are in a time where the acronyms are starting to be questioned or people are not really understanding, how much further does DEIB work go. So I always say, taking the acronyms aside, it's about connection. It's about
mm,
the employees within your organization having that connection. It's about people. It's about being able to put systems and processes in place where everyone is feeling included and where everyone feels like they belong. So I
mm,
created Centering Equity in Your Organization, a guide to building bridges, not barriers, for all employees.
mm.
Because I really wanted organizations to be able to have a guide to follow to implement inclusive policies and practices.
And I love that way that you frame things because it really shows how this is beneficial for everybody involved in the organization, not just a specific set of people, but it's really involving everybody and change on all levels and all of that. Is there a particular, well, I know that there is the specific people that you think that this will be extremely helpful for, or specific type of organizations that would benefit the most from reading your book?
Yeah, well, it would benefit all organizations, but it's really geared towards senior leaders, board members, HR professionals, executives. Those are the ones that make those decisions. They're
Mm-hmm.
the ones that decide to implement and change policy and procedure. So this book would be really
Mm-hmm.
beneficial for them.
I love the way that you have brought this book together because you do share your personal experience of why you have come to this work, which is very nice and engaging to hear. And then you give extremely practical examples of, okay, here's the topic, here's the background on the topic, and then here's actually how you can implement this. Here's a specific practice that you can do in in your organization. And then you also have case studies of examples of, okay, here's how this has worked. So it's great that you have all these different things. What advice do you have for organizations that are looking at shifting the way that they do things in their organization? Do you have any specific
Yeah.
advice for them?
So my advice is to put equity first. And that's why my book is called Centering Equity in Your Organization. I actually work from a EIBD model, which is equity, inclusion, belonging, and diversity. And the reason why I do that is I know that everyone is focused on DE and IB, but if you have a diverse organization and it's not equitable and it's not inclusive and it's not belonging, then really all you have are diverse people sitting there not feeling included, not feeling welcomed, and feeling tokenized. So
Mm,
my advice is I know sometimes organizations don't know how to measure equity, and that's a
mhm,
big trend that I hear a lot. I even
mhm,
hear people saying, well, we're taking equity out of the work because we're not sure how you measure equity. We can measure diversity, we can measure inclusion. We don't know how to really measure that. And so my book shows them when you're centering equity, this is how you do it, and this is how
mm,
you measure it, and this is how you make sure that your goals and your milestones are sustainable.
Excellent. You did a great job of weaving this book together in a very balanced way of practical, you know, advice that people could really put into place, and your own background and story and case examples, so people can see what you're talking about, right? um, I'm curious to hear you talk a little bit more about belonging, because there's something in that I mean, I think a lot of us can wrap our brain around what that means, like that sense of belonging or not. And some of us might take that for granted. And right. So I just love to hear a little bit about what your take is on belonging and how that's played out in organizations too. If you have any thoughts on that.
So a lot of times what happens is people will go on interviews, and when they're being interviewed, the organization will say to them, we want you to be yourself, we want you to show
Mm-hmm.
up who you are. Then
Mm-hmm.
they do, and then it's like, oh, you're not a good fit, this is not a company culture. So
Right.
basically what they're saying is you can show up as yourself as long as yourself fits into what we
Eek.
feel comfortable with. And so
Right.
belonging is removing those ideas and those barriers and allowing people to come into spaces and make it their own, allowing
Mm-hmm.
them to show up the way that they are, whether they're neurodivergent. Um, and I want to touch on that because a lot of times people work differently. And so
Mm-hmm.
organizations are very fast to put people on performance improvement plans because they say you're not working fast enough or this is happening without really looking into and saying, is this person maybe auditory? And
Mm,
so, and I'm doing too many visuals, or are they visual and I'm speaking and it's not going in the right way? So kind of really allowing employees to come in, seeing who
mm-hmm.
they are, and allowing them to fit in and belong.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, well, you can come in and you can fit in, but as long as you fit into the peg that we want you to fit in, then that's okay.
Right. So also I know that people could certainly take this book and run with it and implement it in their organization, right? They could find ways to do that. You do this and help guide people through the process.
Right.
What are the benefits of working with someone that is an expert in this field, that has experience, that has this facilitation skills, like the ability to hold space for it? What are some of the benefits of an organization working with someone like you to come in?
Yeah, when an organization is working with a consultant, they're working with someone who's an expert in their field, who's able to get them further than where they have been or where they're going.
And I know that you are developing a training that is linked with the book that actually, could you share a little bit more about that? It sounded really exciting when you mentioned it to me.
Right. So I actually had a training already called Centering Equity in Your
Mm,
Organization. And what's really funny is I had delivered that training, and then I was writing my book, and I called my book Centering Equity in Your Organization. The two weren't even linked. And then I had mentioned it to my mom, and she asked me what your book is called. And she was like, don't you have a training that's called that too? And I was like, oh, okay. Yes.
right.
So what I'm doing is I'm taking it's a very in-depth training, and it's taking every chapter from the book and incorporating it into
Mm,
the workshop so
nice.
that organizations will leave and they'll say, okay, I know now what it means to center equity in my organization. I know what it looks like to be able to go in and have to gather the data, have to look at the reports. I know what it means to go and look at the policies and the procedures, and we can do this. So the
Mm,
training is very closely linked to the book, and it's going to provide organizations with a roadmap on how to be able to make your organization inclusive and equitable,
mm,
and some people feel like they belong.
that's awesome. I love that. And so, is there anything else that you wanted to share with our audience that we haven't gotten to go into yet? Anything else?
No, not that I can think of.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Jenora. I'm very excited to see where your book goes and how many organizations it helps and all the employees it helps and all of it. It's will be exciting to witness. So thank you for letting me play a part in it. I've appreciated working with you and creating this. And thank you for everyone that's listening as well. Have a great day.
Thank you.